get some answers which are contradicting, because that will make us waste a lot of time. Information. It's important to give the fact. Person.
Chair, I just wanted to draw the attention, CEO's attention to the fact that the first question that was highlighted in this query is about staff. It is not in order for the officer concerned to have a better engagement than this one when Parliament is calling out. Whereas it might be understood and you can have explanation, it leaves a question in the minds of the committee, because this is the person who should have helped you in answering this particular question. So this is where we refer to, you can't give a general answer when you come before a committee, and with such which is very clear. You needed to come, and I'm sure the officer in charge of finance knows the instruments that guides public use of funds, and the instruments guidance, that is Public Finance Management Act, you have it, and that should be the guidance. And then also by getting advice and interaction with Auditor General, it gives you a right standing in terms of answering a question. You don't have to appear naive and make the CEO bumble when he's trying to explain the same. So I think the chairman is kind enough because you are persuaded the way you present that you are coming from a very weak position. But he has always advised us. There is no one who is a finance officer like you who doesn't know. We can say in Kiswahili, ati hana habari. So it's a serious matter. And when we are listening to you, we know the history of this particular entity, and we are asking ourselves, what could be the monster in the house? So make sure this will provide good service to the country, and also makes it easy for you as officers to serve the country. So you must be very specific and address the issues themselves. So whereas, because the chairman has asked to advance, but I would have really thought, Chair, that the responsibility here cannot be escaped. It has to be, you may not have been there, but now you are there.
Nicholas Nkoro Nixon, MP to organize member of this committee.
Thank you. I think on the issue of staffing, what the Bishop has given is an overview. We can move on to the next one. Mheshimiwa, when you have something to say, or we move on?
Yeah, just 1 minute of what Bishop said. I think in the response, you realize the response to the staff is more of the action taken after the auditors picked the query. It is not telling us, and you know why this audit is before us, is public funds were lost to seconded staff. You can imagine that 26 seconded staff which will remain in the institution for more than 3 years, according to the policy. You're not telling us, anything about why they overstayed. The response is more of, these letters were written, staff were released, but it is not looking at exactly why we are here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that will also form part of our observation when we are going into our reports. It's very clear that they have not responded to the issues that we are looking at. But the way forward is very good. You've advised us on what you are doing, the steps you are taking. But what happened? Our concern is not to look at the future of KEMSA. Our concern is to look at what happened with the money we gave you. Whether you used it well, within the law, or you misappropriated it. That's why we are here. But you've given us the future, forgetting that we're interested in what happened as per the auditor's questions. The issue on expired drugs. From my side, I have an issue which I would want maybe you, CEO, to let me know, and it's with the tabulation. The auditor was very calm. He went on the very preliminary summation of looking at the cost of sales. But the issue we are trying to address here is not actually the working mathematics around the cost of sales. It's the damage that you cost of 150,423,159. That is actually the damage from what I can be able to see the auditor is trying to address. And when you look at the response you've given me on page 5, CEO, you try to explain yourself that change of treatment, you've given us both internal issues and external issues. Change of treatment, protocol policy, you excuse yourself that you lost 4.9 million. Change of technology from analog to digital, you excuse yourself, you lost 1.2 million. And downwards until damages and the rest. But my issue is low demand or consumption from customers. I have an issue there. And I want you to really let me know, why did you have to buy this product, this drug? Who is your economist that does the procurement planning? What are these issues to it? Why did you have to buy what you don't anticipate to expect? Just note that question. I'll open the floor to my colleagues so that they put all the questions and you respond to it. Mine is on the demand. Why did you have to do that? Who necessitated that? Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, as you have clearly put it, this committee looks at the historical injustices meted on the taxpayers' money, as well as the goodwill from the.
As we wait for the next colleague to ask, let us appraise ourselves, especially yourself, on Section 19 of the KEMSA Act. I will be coming to take you through that section, which has all A up to K, so that when you're answering those issues, can you explain in detail how did you respond to the issue of that up to K? Thank you very much. Let me invite my colleague, Mheshimiwa, you have that question? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. My question, I'm also having a concern on what happened this time because, as my colleagues have said, I don't see how you can order drugs without projection. Because you must do how you consume, the consumption, and whatever. And I even remember this time, counties were crying lack of drugs. So I don't know why drugs were expires in the store, and you are saying low on demand of consumption. It looks funny, and I think I want clarity. Also, when you say change of treatment of protocol, and then there are some expiries, I want in the morning and the change appears immediately, or there is some process. Because I think there must be a process so that you don't have such losses. Because this taxpayers' money, which has lost on these damages. And I think the way things look here, as I can say, I think the CEO, we were not there, and maybe some of the officers here were not there by that time. But you know, some of these things, it's good to clarify because we have future. And now you are in the office. And at the end of the day, we don't want this to happen again in this country. So might it be an inside job? Maybe people were doing it deliberately so that they can make some money out of it. So we want clarity on that. And I think this will help us, and will also help you as an institution for future operations.
Bishop?
Yeah, I'm just adding a supplementary question to that. And one, it has been exhausted by my colleagues, and that one is how and what led into procurement of new drugs and declaring the other drugs expired. But the second thing is, what is the evidence? Do you have an evidence that the expired drugs were destroyed and that it was not a term used to have this drug used anyway, but now not for the intended user and for the intended outcome, that the outcome will not benefit the original purpose. That's number one, because if you declare a drug expired, it must be destroyed. So that, one, to show evidence it was truly expired. Number two, that it should not be expired and be available on the counter, and Kenyans have been consuming it. Do you have any evidence that this expired drug, one, it was actually destroyed, or it was available for consumption to the unsuspecting public? How did you safeguard the country from this expired drug? Thank you.
Finally, Mheshimiwa Sharif.
Yeah. When I see your use of pull system, push system assumes that we understand procurement system. And, sometimes we might hide behind these terminologies. Maybe you will explain to us how you are not able to move immediately from your used pull to push. The auditors, what the auditors picked is there was no explanation provided to stocking expired and damaged drugs. And your explanation here doesn't address that again. So that means you are stocking expired and damaged drugs in your counter. The same way we had, the story of the sugar. That is, and that came to the market. And the bishop has again put that very clear. Did this stock on your shelves get to the market? This expired and damaged drugs. And then you claiming from, coming from the old system to devolution, again disrupted your, well-used system of supply. As if, you didn't know that we are moving to the devolution and therefore prepared. There is usually a procurement plan. And the procurement plan looks, ahead of what will happen in the market, what the market demands. So how come that happened? That didn't happen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think I'll be asking you to really explain those many issues have just gone around the procurement. So maybe in detail you tell us how did you source, how did you invite the sourcing process, how did you source, and then we move forward. I want to see you.
Chair, I'll ask the head of procurement to go first.
Thank you, Chair. I'll respond to the various issues that have been brought forth. And the number one, the question was why were the drugs bought in the first place? And to respond to this, I'll also combine that with the issue around demand projection. Was there demand projection? So I'll give a background of what used to happen and what happened around that transition period. Chair and honorable members, this country, after the enactment of the 2010 Constitution, devolved the health function. What that meant was that the responsibility of commodity management was transferred to the county governments. However, within the transition, it meant that there were commodities that had been secured under the old arrangement, that the title of those commodities was transferred. The counties were to commodities because the budget was now with them. It was initially what used to happen. The planning was done at the central level, at the Ministry of Health. The quantification would be done. Resources would be allocated. KEMSA would be requested to procure as an agent on behalf of the Ministry of Health. And we would subsequently be shared with a distribution list, or what you would call drawing rights or virtual accounts, where all facilities were allocated funds within to draw, or commodity values to draw from KEMSA. So when that transition happened, it meant that KEMSA was left with the commodities whose title was transferred to them, and naturally it was expected that counties would place the orders. Due to the changes, priorities changed because, one,
the expiry of drugs on the shelf, how long does it take?
the expiry of drugs, the shelf life,
Yes.
will vary between 24. There are drugs which will have 12 months shelf life.
Yes.
Others will have 36 months shelf life.
Yes.
We even have others which could have more. But normally, it will be between 12 and 36
12 and 36 months.
which is 1 year to 2 years.
So in this case, what are you talking about?
To 3 years, sorry.
Which years of transition are you talking about?
We are talking about the transition from 2013.
Yes.
We went all the way to 2016 in the first phase. That would be the first expiries. But then probably...
So this drugs you are telling us is for... first of all, you are wrong. The last date of our transition was 2015, not 2016. Okay. Yes. That's as per the transition authority. So it's not 2016. So when we are looking at the accounts of 2017, 2018,
yes,
the issue of transition should not be mentioned. It shouldn't. So give us the facts of the case for the 2017, 2018. That is historical. What you are telling us is history.
yes.
Yes. Give us what happened that these drugs were procured and they expired on the counter.
And Chair, maybe to add on what you said.
Yes.
He's lying to us. That, he wants to tell us that when we're transitioning to devolution or to counties stopped buying drugs, which is not true. The health centers existed, and there were instructions to continue procuring from KEMSA. And I am privy to that because I was part of the transition.
Please tell us what happened in this case, that these drugs ended up on your shelves and they had no demand.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. What I wanted to explain from the background was that we had two sets of entities here. We had the counties on one side, and we have KEMSA on the other side. So counties, KEMSA has what we call the sales and marketing arm, which liaises with the counties, and they generate the demand projection at the planning stage. Then KEMSA would use that data to procure commodities, and then now wait for the counties to allocate resources, and the expectation would be that they will allocate based on the estimates that has been agreed upon. But we all know that there is that gap between the timelines when you did the planning and when the resources were eventually availed.
So, in other words, you're mentioning you procured on the basis of planning.
Yes.
Is that the procurement law?
There were,
Please respond to my question. Is that the procurement law
yes.
that you procure on the basis of planning?
Maybe you can give me time I explain a bit.
No,
Chair.
but I'm also asking you
Yes.
because you don't have luxury of time.
Okay.
Just let me know. Does it mean you procure on the basis of planning?
The plan transition into projections, which goes into, they are quantified, budgeted for. And that budget is submitted to the KEMSA board for approval. So the board will say, this particular year, from our sales and marketing team, they are projecting to buy this. Is their budget set aside?
Basis of procurement of these drugs. That's the question.
So the basis was
Yes.
based on the estimates or the demand projections that had been generated by the sales and marketing team, what we call our commercial division, submitted to the board, a budget generated, and a procurement plan was subsequently generated. So a procurement was carried out for the commodities in line with the requisition.
So my question is this. I want you to respond to my question. What was the basis of your procurement of these drugs? Was it because you have the procurement plan, all those issues from the sales and the marketing department, or what was the basis that you now send out the LPO inviting the suppliers to deliver the drugs?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. There are those commodities, and I would probably request that the specific items, because we have a list under Annex 2.1. Under Annex 2.1, Chair, when we look at the items that are outlined here, majority of these items were actually inherited when we did the transition.
I want you to respond to my question. Yes. Why are you avoiding my question? Because you know where I want to get the answer. Give me an answer. What is the basis of your procurement of these stocks that the auditor has queried? There was no explanation as to why you are stocking the stocks, the drugs, yet they are expired. What was the basis of your procurement of these drugs? Just give me the document. If you don't have, you say you don't have. Then we move forward.
So, like I have explained, we have two scenarios. And Please, Chair, then I would want to handle the two scenarios. One will respond to what you have asked, and one will also clarify part of the items that form the list of expired drugs. So
you've given me the figure of 1,144,183,971 having been occasioned by low demand or consumption from customers. That is what I want to know. What was the basis of your procurement of this stock?
Thank you, Chair. That I can respond. That, like I explained, the counties will liaise with the commercial division. The commercial division will generate a purchase requisition and a budget. The budget is approved, and once that is approved, a procurement is done, and commodities then will be available for sale. Then the assumption, therefore, will be that once this
My question is this.
Yes.
Very simple. What is the basis of your procurement? Did you have the money before procuring these commodities?
Yes.
You had the money into KEMSA's account?
Yes.
Can you show the evidence of that? I want to get a confirmation that you got the money for procurement of this.
Chair, if you allow me.
Yes.
Around that time, and even up to now, we had a revolving fund for medical commodities, which we buy and we sell to the counties, and the proceeds from the collections come back to the revolving fund. So it is on the basis of the revolving fund that we had projections, and the money was available under the revolving fund.
Let's proceed from there. Proceed with the response.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So, the question on these expired drugs, probably maybe, Chair, is just to take you back to the shelf life of the items. I indicated that the items will have a shelf life that varies from 12 to 20 to 36 months. That is 2 to 3 years. And after that is the process before you destroy the items, where you will bond the items, so it will take some time. So some of these items, which had been inherited from the previous arrangement, form also part of this stock. So how was the procurement carried out? Because that was the other question. Normally what happens is that because we have the budget, then the normal requisitioning is done, the procurement is carried out in line with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, and mostly the procurement then will be either open or any other approved method of procurement, and then contract will happen and deliveries will happen. So that I wanted to clarify on the procurement method that was used or ought to have been used then. Then the issue of was there continuous monitoring during the period? The response is yes, and that is how we were able to even set aside these particular commodities when we realized that they were expiring. Change of treatment guideline, Chair and honorable members. What normally happens when you human consumption or for treatment, it means that when drugs are like poisons. So when you use drugs, people react to these particular drugs. And therefore, from time to time, the ministry will review the treatment guidelines that as and when a better you stop using what you have been using, because we now have a better solution. And Chair, when that happens, then we can't hold and say we had this stock, we will continue giving the patients that particular drug. You transition immediately to the new efficacious drug. And it is inevitable within the health supply chain that when that happens, then you cannot continue to administer that drug whose treatment has changed to a better molecule.
Let him finish. He has many questions.
Okay.
He has made a response, then we should the other. On that one. Yes.
Chair, the procurement person has just explained over that issue of expired drugs. Just straight to that one of change of technology from, not technology, change of treatment protocol stroke policy. As you have just explained that normally the ministry if this drug can continue being used or not. Though under that effect, do you have any communication from the ministry, particularly on this?
Chair, I can confirm to the committee that yes, we have the communication. It can be shared. It's just that so were destroyed. Chair and honorable members, I will confirm that yes, we have evidence. Normally what happens is that once the expired drugs are the destruction is done or they are carried out by NEMA certified service providers who give you a certificate to confirm that the drugs that were declared expired and they were actually expired have been destroyed, and the certificates can be availed.
So who has the certificates? You can table the certificates for this.
Chair, that if, because the request that we got did not include that, but we can share if requested to do that.
So I want to request that you submit to us the destruction certificate of the products mentioned totaling to 150 million. Also, you mentioned that at the same time the ministry writes to you, immediately you identify that there is new product. I want us written instructions from the ministry with respect to this 4.9, which you've said. It references to about 4.9 million worth of drugs. In the final submission, we'll be highlighting them. Yes, the question by the Vice Chair, proceed so that we can...
Thank you. Then the other question was the explanation as to what do we mean when we talk about pull and when we talk about the push system. Chair and honorable members, before devolution, management of health commodities was centrally carried out, where determined at the central level, and those of us who may remember, we used to have a kit. So that kit was a predetermined assortment of drugs that would go to facilities across the country. So regardless of what your requirements, the unique requirements were, you got a standard kit, which many have determined would be able to serve for the majority of the requirements within that facility. Now, that transitioned to the pool system where, because of technology, it is now possible for the specific facility to request for what they need. So instead of getting a standard kit, now we're ordering themselves. So that is the pool. So the facility pressing in their orders. So currently, under the current dispensation, we have the facility which works with the sub-county. So the sub-county will consolidate their orders. They go to the county, and the county pharmacist will place the order on KEMSA. So that is the system was where there was a standard kit, and the kit would be distributed across to each and every facility, regardless of where they are located.
I just want to look, you've not responded to the issues of the Vice Chair, especially with respect to the procurement, which was like looking at who are these people that was destroyed. But now, instead of the suppliers of the product supplied, you have given us an elaborate procurement plan, how it reaches to your desk until you procure. Can we have that submission to us? And with respect to 2017-2018, how did you come to get to that plan? How are the counties now leading to this procurement of this, how the county requested for this product? Can we have the advertisement for the supply? I want my clerks to note it. How you advertise for the procurement of these drugs until the award of the suppliers of those drugs. Can we have the list of the suppliers that delivered these drugs? And I want to hear from the finance manager. Do we have any of the suppliers who has not been paid on this, or you've already paid all the suppliers with respect to these drugs?
Chair, I can confirm that all the suppliers for these commodities have been paid.
They have been paid.
Yes, we don't have pending bills from that time.
Have you written off this 150 million from your books? How have you treated it?
It has been written off our books as at the end of the financial year 2017-2018.
2017-2018?
Yes, Chair.
Do you have the documentation for the write-off of this amount? Board approval and all that?
There is the board approval of the submission of the accounts, which is was shared with the external auditors, and else can be submitted.
Can you have the relevant authorities approving the write-off of the 150 million?
We can submit that, Chair.
Thank you. Let's hear from Vice Chair.
Yeah, Chair, you know, sometimes it's good to let the witness know that they are not themselves in the dock. They are trying to defend the organization. I can see you are trying to shake as if you are you are being accused of anything. No, you are not on the dock. Nobody has accused. You are just trying to defend the organization, and that's why sometimes I think we need to really ask the people who are there when these things took place, so that it doesn't look like you are struggling to defend somebody. You don't know how it was. And I look at you like a forensic pathologist who's trying to look at the cause of death. So somebody was killed and you are trying to defend it as if it was an accident. You, of course, you can actually find a reason to be an accident, but it does not leave the fact that that person was murdered. And because you are not there when he was being murdered, you will struggle to make it look like an accident. So it is a bad situation to be in. What I would like to ask you is that, in addition to what I've asked earlier about the suppliers at that time, because we are just trying to imagine what could have happened. And we are trying to imagine you, as you help us, to try to unravel what could have happened to these drugs. So you could use the report of the organization, so that we also try to unravel, or we can also project and actually put you on the dock the following year. And this is how we'll do it. As an organization, you must, after supplying and procuring for a number of years, you must have a projection that for the past years of supply, this quantity of drugs are always destroyed due to expiry. Last year we destroyed 120, this year we destroyed 30 worth of millions, and so on and so forth. So they must have a projection that in the year 2022, this could be the cost of drugs that will be destroyed because of expiry. Let's give it to you that it is a possibility that drugs can be destroyed because they have expired. Now, as an organization, must have a projection so that next year, when we sit with you here, now that you are in the office, we'll be asking you, what did you project that this year the cost of drugs that will be expired will be? And how much has been destroyed for now? Because if we just sit down and say, a figure will prop up 2023, 1.2 billion, and say this one is out of expired drugs, and you defend it comfortably, and we actually agree with you, then what happens to the organization? What happens to the taxpayers? Is this how we are going to play the ping pong game? You know, you understand what I'm saying. So that is also very, so that we will not, this one will recur. I trust you. After this, you are going to look at 2018. On 2018, you are going to see 160 million expired drugs. Now, 2019, another millions of shillings expired drugs. So we want to define that this is expired drugs and this is an avenue of corruption. We just want to distinguish that this is a true expiry of drugs and this is an avenue that is used for corruption cartels. That's how we need that information. Otherwise, we'll be a stamp in our authority on a corruption system, and we give a report, and we'll have not done justice to the taxpayers.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any comment on that? We need to move.
Maybe just to agree with the sentiment from the Vice Chair, and probably also cite that the trade analysis is normally carried out, but we are guided by we also have reference points where WHO, who is the authority on the management of health commodities, actually acknowledges that because of all these changes, there is an allowable rate of expiries. Within that, it will happen. But again, like the Vice Chair has observed, we need to look at the excesses. So I just wanted to confirm that the trend analysis is done.
What is the allowable rate?
Between 1 to 2% of the value of the commodities that you are putting through the financial year.
Where you place yourself?
We are below that. Actually, that's...
Below is English. What is the fraction, the number? We were discussing numbers. When we say, you said 1 and 2%.
Yeah. We can provide the actual percentage because I put it.
First, Head of Finance.
Chair, can provide that for this particular financial year.
So we need maybe a fraction of your percentages.
Yes.
From 27. Now that we are reviewing 2017 all the way to 2022, can we each year have your percentage? What is your distraction percentage? Where are you in terms of yourselves? So starting from 2017-18,
Yes.
global world, and we need also to have evidence of that global rating. Yes, submit the evidence of what is the ratio of the world, and then give it to us. Let's move to 4.0, the issue of PPE, so that you take us 4.1, 2 to 3.
Thank you, Chair. I'll read issue number 4, property, plant and equipment. 4.1 is on land. As previously reported, the property, plant and equipment balance of Kenya shillings 3 billion. Which includes various parcels of land spread across the country and valued at Kenya shillings 158 million, for which the authority does not possess. There is a schedule on the location of the pieces of land, the allotment numbers, and the value for each of the parcels. Chair, do I need to go through each of them? No. Thank you. Includes unspecified value of parcel of land in Meru municipality measuring 0.3 acres, which also belongs to the authority. No explanation has been provided for failure to obtain the title deeds for these parcels of land as to bring into account the parcel of land. In the circumstances, it has not been possible to confirm the ownership of the 8 parcels of land and whether the land cost of Kenya shillings 1,706,967,270 is fairly stated as a 30 vehicles. The property, plant and equipment balance of Kenya shillings 3,968,606,648 includes motor vehicles net book value of 62,315,900, which includes 574,000, which that are owned by the national government as detailed below. The registration numbers of the vehicles, the models, the year of manufacture, and the net book value of each of the vehicles. Authority. In the circumstances, it has not been possible to confirm the ownership of the 4 motor vehicles, whether the motor vehicles net book value of 62,315,900 is fairly stated as at 30 June 2018. 4.3 is on work in progress. The work in progress balance of 494,320,413 as of 30 June 2018 includes Kenya shillings 321,360,535 paid to a consultant engineer for design and supervision of construction of warehouse. Payable for the design was Kenya shillings 126,279. Sorry, 3,079,908,859, resulting in an overpayment of 95,080,582 that was not explained or supported. The work in progress also includes Kenya shillings 22,466,643 paid to a consultant engineer for supervision of renovation. However, according to the documents availed, the amount payable is Kenya shillings 5,754,638, 12% of the cost of works of the Kenya shillings 47,955,316, again resulting to an overpayment of Kenya shillings 16,712,005 shillings as detailed below. Further, the cost price for consultant engineer for supervision of renovation and construction of warehouse and office block has not been specified in the contract agreement. In the circumstance, the propriety of 211,792,507 charged to work in progress as of 30 June 2018 could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let's now have the
Chair. I'll ask the Director Operations to respond on the issue. Or maybe, Chair, let me just go ahead. Okay.
Chair?
I want us to go this way. The CEO will take us through, and the Director will support the reading, so that the CEO brings the committee to speed. We all acclimatize with it. Then you can come in with any other supporting discussions. So just take us through from page 7 of your submission.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we concur with the auditor's observations that despite having allotment letters and leases for various parcels of land, the authority did not possess titles for parcels of land valued at 158 million Kenya shillings. KEMSA board has, however, taken up the issue of titles on KEMSA land seriously and has engaged a conveyance expert to handle the issues of realization of titles with a specified time frame. The current status, Chair, is that KEMSA engaged the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning through the Directorate of Survey in April this year to conduct a cadastral survey for these parcels of land. The purpose of the survey was to establish the boundaries and installation of beacons. Beacon certificates have been issued so far upon successful installation of beacon markers. The preparation of the final survey report and technical file was completed. The cadastral survey report and the preparation of technical file form part of the requirements by the Registrar of Lands to complete the conveyance of the land. The Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, through the Director of the Survey, have since submitted the final valuation report. Chair, we wish to confirm that the KEMSA did not obtain documents of title for the Meru municipality land, measuring 0.3 hectares. Land adjudication county, which saw the location of the parcels of land change in the area. KEMSA was allocated another piece of land in Meru through allocation letters done by the county government, etc. 10 acres of land for KEMSA. received the title deeds for the Meru 10-acre land in 2021. Title deed. Here on this, the current status, we wish to note that even though KEMSA has received a title deed for Meru, the cadastral survey had not been undertaken, and this is a requisite for valuation. Since the land was not purchased, there was no cost to attach to the parcels. In February 2023, a cadastral survey was procured. Ministry of Land Director of Valuation will issue a technical file that will form the basis for the valuation of land. Chair, attached as Appendix 4.1 is the current status of ownership of land. Chair, I submit. On 4.2, is in possession of motor vehicles owned by the Ministry of Health. Chair, should be noted that KEMSA had requested for transfer of ownership from the permanent annexed as Appendix 6.2, requesting for transfer of GK motor vehicles to letter from Ministry of Health recording 2 drivers and a vehicle registration number GK960B. The vehicle registration number GK960B was physically released to the Ministry as soon as the request was received. KEMSA will continue to follow up on the issue to ensure that ownership of the lorries is transferred to correct this anomaly. Chair, we on the work in progress, we note the observation of the auditor and respond as follows. That as per the letter referenced given, dated 2nd and 10th of November 2017, and annexed as Appendix 4.31 from the State Department of Public Works, the fee schedule applied in the calculations in the condition of engagement 1987, and as outlined the conditions of engagement and scales of fees for professional services for building and civil engineering works, is attached as Appendix 4.3 to condition of engagement. So the fee schedule that was applied was based on that. Fees at design stage are calculated based on the estimated cost of the works. This is because during design stage, KEMSA did not have contract sum since the work had not been standard. The estimated cost of the project was 3,643,874.82, and this is attached as the estimate cost as Appendix 4.3. The fees are paid in stages during the design and during the construction. By the tender stage, the project architect is paid 70% of his fees, the structural engineer is paid 80%, and the quantity surveyor 60%, and the service engineers 70%. The balance is paid as the construction progresses. The fees are recalculated based on the actual contract sum realized from the tendering process, and any overpayment is recovered from the fees payable during the construction stage. The realized cost for the project was 3,709,998,859.50. The difference in fees payable and fees paid to the consultant was 29,097,317.3, and not the 195,080,581. We wish to state that the 22,463,463 engagement and scales of fees for services for building and civil engineering works as attached in Appendix Services 1987. The scales provide the rates to be applied in the calculation. We go to page 11. In the calculation of professional fees, notes for architects, engineers, and quantity surveyors. The amounts paid included fees as per the scales and disbursement for other costs incurred in line of offering professional services. The generally applied rate of 12% is not supported by the scales, and there was therefore no over.
Thank you very much. We'll be opening the floor, and maybe if we'll open with an intellectual challenge to the auditors, because now the auditors, the ball is in your court. They are telling you that you did not the right scale. We don't know whether 19 is still obsolete. What are they talking about? Maybe make a comment.
Thank you, Chair. That was put across because the client had an opportunity to respond after being issued with a management letter and with a draft report. They had an opportunity to respond. So based on that, it is clear that even the information they are talking about, they did not know.
So, Adan, you need to note that we need the response you send to the auditors with respect to this issue of scales. And maybe if I can come back to the auditors, is there any revised scaling to use, or we still use 1987?
Chair, I'm not so sure of that, but we can confirm.
Yeah, Chair, I think there is 1989 and 2000, but we can provide that.
1989 and 2000?
Yes.
We need to get the proper clarification, and preferably we'll be writing to Public Works to give us the latest scaling that they use. And we'll also be asking you, why did you choose 1987?
That was, Chair, that is what was in the signed contract.
Can we have the contract?
That can be provided, Chair.
So we need the contract of this engineering consultancy so that we can determine how come the engineer was paid using the scaling of 1987. Is it because he knows the percentage was higher, or what really established? Can we get the contract? Can KEMSA, how long will it take to submit the contract?
This information is available. It can be submitted even today or early tomorrow morning. And also the conditions of engagement, they are available at the BORACS, Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, who, thank God, they are just next to our offices.
Don't worry about that. We'll know how we'll get that.
Yes.
We'll get that, but in the final, in this sitting, we'll be instructing you to submit everything, not in partial, so that it will all come as one, but not that as part of the issues we'll require. May I ask my colleagues if they have any issues on PPE? I have an issue on PPE with respect to Meru. Why was that land not given to you? The 0.3 hectares.
Yeah, Chair, that land was initially allocated to us, but we had not developed. There was a government building in it. Then in the course of time, another state agency came and established its office on the same piece of land. And it was hard to establish the ownership. Is it owned by KEMSA, or is it owned by the state agency? To resolve this, we approached the county government, and they gave us an alternative piece of land, about 10 acres, which we have progressed, and we now have a title deed. Thank you, Chair.
Did you pay for any money for that 10 acres?
We have not paid any money, Chair.
Can we have the evidence of I can see your submission, you say you have the title for the 10 acres.
Yes, Chair, we have the title.
So can we have the allotment letter
We will provide
from the county government of Meru?
We will provide the correspondences and the allotment.
My other question is on the issue of motor vehicles. The bus, the lorries.
Chair, during transition when KEMSA became an authority, we were initially a department at the Ministry of Health, and when we became an authority, we inherited all the properties, assets and liabilities that currently were being used by the department. That included the motor vehicles. KEMSA is the logistics arm of the Ministry of Health. That is why the lorries, which were then under the Ministry of Health, continued being used and being maintained by KEMSA. What did not happen is that the process of transfer did not happen, whereby the logbooks were not transferred to KEMSA, but the vehicles continued being maintained and serviced by KEMSA in distribution of medical commodities. I submit.
Thank you. I still want to go back to the issue of the consultant. And looking at your response on page 10, paragraph 2 from the bottom, you are disputing the issue of 195 against 29.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. There is no proper explanation to that.
Based on the scales, the issue of the scales, the issue of the 195 did not 95. We only had an overpayment of 29, and it's also actually not an overpayment. It was related to interest on delayed payments, which was later recovered from subsequent certificates.
But the auditor is posing that you paid 195. So are you confirming? Are you concurring that 195 is legitimate?
Yes, Chairman. It was paid in accordance with the scales and the engagement, the contract signed with the consultant.
Therefore, we will not be able to wind up this issue until the auditor looks at what the response you have. And we will also be able to look at the auditor's view on what you've said. Now that we agreed that we'll listen to you, but this is a very serious issue, which is input before we make our final sub. So I'll ask maybe the auditors to really look into this issue. Let's have the thorough input of yourselves before we make any conclusion, because the auditor cannot pose a number of 195. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. We'll confirm and revise.
I'm properly guided, Chair.
Yeah. So, any other colleague with an issue on PPE? I want to hear the confirmation from the CEO. When are you assuring us that it will be available? The ones listed as not being available.
Who is undertaking this process? I think, as of, and you can confirm, as of today, I think the finance can have may have more details than me, but we have made a lot of progress in terms of the lands getting titled. Was mainly most of it is the cadastral survey, which has already been undertaken. We are awaiting the report. So, but finance can confirm.
Yeah, Chair, we can provide all these title deeds, and maybe just for your information, this report, the one that we have submitted, as at this morning it has changed, because we have received a title for Nyeri, and there's a title for Kisumu, but unfortunately it came out in the name of the Cabinet Secretary Treasury to hold in trust of ourselves.
What is important is the Cabinet Secretary National Treasury is the custodian of everyone. That's by the PFM Act. He is the really Cabinet Secretary. The rest are others. So once we have the real Cabinet Secretary owning up the property, so be it. The rest we can be transferred to yourselves. That's okay. My interest is the government property should move from the owners in private to the government. Once it's done, then we can move forward. I want me to invite the auditors to take us to the third section on number 5.0, which is receivables and from exchange transactions.
Thank you, Chair. I'll read issue number 5 on receivables from exchange transactions. As previously reported, the receivables from exchange transactions balance of shillings 4,122,083,110 reflected in the statement of financial position as at 30 June 2018 includes long outstanding receivables totaling to Kenya shillings 3,400,428,351, comprising of counties Kenya shillings 2,345,622,268 and the Ministry of Health Kenya shillings 1,054,806,083 shillings, whose recovery is doubtful as detailed below. There's a detail of the county, the financial year 2017-18, and the year before that 2016-2017, and the totals. No explanation has been provided for failing to recover these long outstanding debts. In the circumstance, the accuracy and validity of the receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 4,122,083,110 reflected in the statement of financial position as at 30 June 2018 is doubtful. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Please take us also through the one for trade and other payables, the term.
Issue number 6, trade and other payables. Trade and other payables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 833,920,091 shillings as at 30 June 2018 includes long outstanding medical creditors of Kenya shillings 22,888,538 and operational creditors of Kenya shillings 35,601,096 that had been outstanding for a long period of time. Further, the trade and other payables from exchange transaction balance include a long outstanding customer prepayment of Kenya shillings 3,829,479 terms as a direct deposit dated as far back in 2016, and suppliers retained fund of Kenya shillings 9,858,300, which has been outstanding since 30th June of 2012. Consequently, the accuracy and validity of trade and other payables from exchange transaction balance of Kenya shillings 833,920,001 shillings as at 30 June 2018 could not be confirmed. Thank you.
Let's have the response for the two.
Exchange transactions. We concur with the auditor's observation that as at 30th million 83,110 with long-standing amount due to KEMSA of 3,400,428,301, which includes an programs totaling 1,054,806,000 and 83 and count 2,345,000,000. The data arose from supply chain services, which is warehousing, procurement distribution offered by KEMSA to the various national programs under the Ministry of Health. They include the HIV/AIDS program, the family planning, the East African Laboratory Network project, and nutrition, among others. KEMSA has been following up on the settlement of these debts with the Ministry of Health through correspondences and meetings with the ministry officials. The Principal Secretary had confirmed that the debt had been captured as pending bills and had been provided for in the budget for the year 2018-19. However, it came to the attention of KEMSA that this outstanding amount had not been factored in the ministry budget for that year. KEMSA has since written to the Principal Secretary, who has referred the matter to National Treasury to provide the funds to clear the outstanding amount. The debt remains valid, and this is the reason why it formed part of the receivables from exchange transactions. These correspond letters from the Principal Secretary of Health and KEMSA is attached in Appendix 5.1. We further concur with the observation of the auditor that as at 30th of June, the county government owed KEMSA a total of 2,345,622,268 shillings. KEMSA was advised by the Principal Secretary Ministry of Health to extend credit facility to counties despite the high outstanding debts, which is annexed, the letter from the Principal Secretary is annexed as Appendix 5.2. We wish to inform you that as at 11th August 2020, KEMSA had collected a total of 2,193,622,288.76 from the counties against debts outstanding as at 30th June 2022. This is attached as an annex in Appendix 5.3, receipt summary by the county. As evidenced by the summary, which I've just referred to, most of the counties have cleared the debts outstanding as at 30th of June 2018. The authority is in constant engagement with the few counties, notably Nairobi, Narok, Murang'a, Kisumu, Machakos, Migori, Nakuru, Narok, Kisumu, and Vihiga counties, and there are positive indications that the amounts will be cleared before 30th of June 2018. We therefore do not consider the debts as doubtful, and you can see Appendix 5.4 with letters of engagement with the counties and a detailed debt report of receivables from counties in the financial year 22-23 as Appendix 5. Chair, the current status. All the observed long outstanding amounts as at 30th June 2018 have been settled, except the receivable from Kisumu County of that 5,748,735.98 shillings. The management is following up on the settlement of this outstanding amount through reminder letters, personal visits, and lobbying through the Council of Governors. Chair, I submit.
Trade and other payables.
Chair, on trade and other payables, we concur with the audition and respond as follows. We have various medical creditors. Med Africa has 14,881,184. Medic Systems Limited 2,280,504.84. Omayara 6,845, and with a total of 22,808. I mean, page 14. Now 15. Then we have operation creditors, Crown Agents Kenya Limited, 11,361,832.91. GTZ, 11,361,832.91. John Snow Incorporated, 11,361,832.91. With total security surveillance limited, 1,596,407, with a total of that 5,681,976. Chair, on Med Africa Limited, 14 million. Asia, Kitale, and Wajir County Hospitals on 25th of June 2015, with a delivery period of 24 weeks. At the time of signing the contract, the indication was that the sheds would be ready to house the incinerators before delivery. This was not the case, since the Ministry of Health, who are responsible for the construction of the 3 incinerators sheds, did not prepare the site as expected. The incinerators were delivered in January 2016 to the respective sites, but the sheds of the house to house them were not ready. KEMSA procured the equipment on behalf of East African Public Health Laboratory networking project, and the supplier delivered the equipment, but the sheds were not ready. The Principal Secretary advised KEMSA through a letter given reference dated 24th March 2016, Annexes Appendix 6.1, Africa 70% of the contract and 30% of the contract, which is 14,891,184, is what is outstanding. 2018, KEMSA received a certificate of practical completion of the incinerator sheds for Busia and Kitale Hospital. US dollars 3 million